Death is the strangest thing you will ever experience because you will never actually experience it. And that sounds impossible at first because your entire life has been built around avoiding death. Every fear you have is connected to it. Every ambition, every attachment, every anxiety about the future, every desperate attempt to become someone. All of it secretly revolves around one assumption that one day I will stop existing. But before you inspect that idea, look carefully at what you mean actually by I. Not philosophically or spiritually, but directly. Because this is where the entire thing starts to break apart. Right now, you probably feel like you are a person located somewhere behind your eyes, between the ears, looking out at the world. That feeling is so normal, you almost never question it, but notice something strange. You can see your body, you can feel sensations, you can hear thoughts talking about me, which means that all of those things are appearing to you. So what exactly is the one they are appearing to? This is the part that most people skip. They immediately answer with another thought. Well, obviously I'm the mind. I'm the observer, I'm the soul, I'm the consciousness. But those are still just ideas. I'm asking something much more dangerous. Can you actually find this self directly? Right now, not the thought of yourself, not your name, not your memories, not your personality, not your face, not your story, but the actual entity. Where is it? Look carefully, because if death terrifies you, then whatever dies should be identifiable. And yet, the closer you look, the harder it becomes to find the one who is supposedly going to disappear. You find thoughts and sensations, mental images, fear, but the I itself stays strangely absent. Now, here's where this gets uncomfortable. The mind hears this and immediately says, okay, but obviously I'm the one aware of all this. But look closer. That sentence is also just another thought appearing. The thought says, I am aware. But can you find the owner of the thought separate from the thought itself? Or is there just the thought? This matters more than you think because almost your entire fear of death comes from confusing a mental construction with an actual entity. You've spent your entire life assuming there's a real someone inside the body who owns this experience. A thinker of the thoughts, a feeling of the feelings, a controller of the actions. But direct experience never actually shows you that. It only shows you thoughts appearing, sensations appearing, emotions appearing, memories appearing. The owner is always implied, never found. And if that sounds abstract, let's make it brutally practical. Right now, try to notice the next thought before it appears. Not after, before. You can't do it. The thought simply arrives, and then another thought appears claiming ownership of it. But that ownership thought also appears automatically, which means the mind is doing something very strange. It's creating thoughts, then creating a second thought, pretending to be the thinker. And because this happens very quickly, it creates the illusion of a self. But illusion doesn't mean nothing exists. It means something is being misinterpreted. Like mistaking the movie character for a real person. The character appears, the emotion appears, the story appears, but there was never actually an entity inside of the screen. Now, here's where it becomes deeply confusing, because if the self is not something you thought it was, then what exactly dies? The body changes constantly, your personality changes constantly, and so does your beliefs, your emotions. Even the cells in your body are replaced. The version of you from 10 years ago is already gone, and yet something still feels continuous. Not your identity, but presence itself and awareness itself. But before the mind turns this into spirituality, slow down, because I'm not asking you to believe awareness is magical. I'm asking you to notice something obvious. Every experience you have ever had has appeared in awareness. Every sight, sound, fear, memory, every dream about the future, even your idea of death. All of it appears right here. But have you ever actually experienced the actions of awareness itself? Think carefully. You've experienced deep sleep as a memory afterward. You experience gaps of memory. You've experienced unconsciousness conceptually, but you have never actually stood outside awareness and observed its disappearance. And that creates a massive existential problem because death is always imagined as awareness disappears for me. But who exactly is the me that stands outside of awareness to confirm that? You never actually experience non-existence, you only imagine it. And imagination is always happening right now inside of awareness, and this is why death feels psychologically impossible, because the mind tries to imagine its own absence, but every attempt still requires presence in order to imagine it. But here's the problem that really destabilizes people. What if death is not the disappearance of the self, but the revelation that the self was never the thing you thought it was to begin with? Not because you become infinite cosmic energy or because of religion or comforting beliefs or anything like that, but because the separate entity you spent your whole life defending cannot actually be located anywhere in direct experience. Look right now. Where exactly is the self? Is it in the body? The body is perceived. Is it in thoughts? Thoughts appear and disappear automatically. Is it in emotions? Emotions constantly change. Is it in memory? Memory is just another appearance happening now. Everything you call me is observable, which means that none of it can be the observer itself. But then the mind asks a terrifying question: if I am not the self, then what am I? And this is where most people retreat back into distraction, like phones, goals, relationships, entertainment, constant noise, because silence starts exposing something they've been avoiding their entire lives. There may not be a separate person at the center of experience, just experience and life happening. Just sensations and thoughts happening without an actual owner. And strangely, this is not depressing, it's actually liberating, because the one suffering psychologically was largely the imagined self. The mental character constantly trying to become complete, trying to control life, trying to secure permanence, trying to avoid uncertainty, trying to survive as an idea. But life was already happening before those thoughts appeared. Breathing and hearing and seeing was already happening. No manager was required. And this completely changes the meaning of death, because what dies is not awareness itself, but it's the construction, the identity and psychological character made of memory, thought, and narrative. And even that is happening continuously already. You are not the same person you are 5 minutes ago. Thoughts were constantly coming and going, so were moments. The entire universe is disappearing and recreating itself every instant, but the mind only panics when it imagines the disappearance happening to me. But notice something shocking. That me is just another appearance, a thought claiming ownership over life. And once that's seen clearly, something unexpected happens. Death stops looking like a future event. It starts looking like something that was never personally happening in the first place, because the separate self was never an independently existing thing. It was a psychological process, a looping story, a mental overlay placed on top of raw experience. Now, this does not mean your body becomes immortal. Obviously, the body dies, thoughts stop, and memories dissolve. Your personality dissolves, but that's not actually what frightens you most. What frightened you was the imagined annihilation of a separate internal observer. But when you look directly for that observer, it cannot be found. Only experience remains. Only this, only the sound of this voice, the feeling of your body, the movement of thought, the appearance of the room around you. No center, no owner, no separate entity hiding behind experience, just life. And here's the final twist. The mind hears this and asks, okay, but who realized all this? Notice the trap. It constantly tries to recreate the self again, a spiritual self, an awakened self, a witness. But that too is just another thought appearing, another identity, another mask. What you are is not a person who became free. What you are is the space in which the entire illusion of a person appeared, including the fear and search and resistance, including the idea of death itself. And the strange part is that space was never born, which means it never needed protection in the first place.